First thing we need to jump into is the stupid fucking submarine, which, if you've been alive and not buried under a rock this last week, you've probably heard all about it. So, what the hell am I even talking about? What the hell is a stupid fucking submarine? So, there's a company called Ocean Gate that built their own submarine out of basically off the shelf sort of discount parts, right? So, it's sort of like this weird, kind of like ghetto version of a submarine, right? And so then they would take rich tourists down to go look at the wreckage of the Titanic. And that was their business model. And lo and behold, just as absolutely no one would ever have predicted, the discount bootleg submarine completely disintegrated, killing every single person on board. Long story short. Why is this such a big deal? Because, people die on the ocean all the time. Why is this such a big deal? It's because a bunch of rich people were on this submarine, including a couple of billionaires. We had a British businessman named Hamish Harding, who was sort of a hedge fund kind of guy. Apparently was a billionaire, and like he used his money to go on adventures and stuff. Like apparently he took some kind of submersible trip to the bottom of the Marianas Trench or whatever, so he knew the risks. He was on board there. A French explorer named Paul Henry Nargollet is also on board and is dead. A Pakistani businessman named Shazda Dawood and his teenage son Suleiman, his 19-year-old son Suleiman, who are also billionaires. Apparently, they're part of they were the family which controls the Dawood Group, which is like a sort of huge corporate conglomerate. Apparently, the 19-year-old kid, didn't want to go. He was afraid that exactly this was going to happen, and the only reason he went was because it was Father's Day, and he wanted to spend time with his father. And it's like, man, that's kind of heartbreaking right there. But yeah, they're gone. And then also the CEO of the company named Stockton Rush, the CEO of Ocean Gate, was on board when this thing completely imploded and killed them all. So what exactly happened? Well, apparently this company had made this trip at least 3 times down to the Titanic. And what it is that the submarine was roughly the size of a minivan, and it would actually go inside of the wreckage of the Titanic. Like it would go down to the bottom of the ocean at 12,000 feet below, right? Which is absolutely insane. And you're out of your mind if you're going to go down there in something that some guy just built in his garage. But anyway, it would go down there and it would tour the wreckage of the Titanic, and you could see everything, right? And apparently they've done this at least 3 times. There were at least 10 excursions, I guess you would call them. 10 expeditions, I guess, is what you would call them, to the Titanic to go see it. And then they've successfully made the dive at least 3 times that we know of. Possibly more. So it's not like they've never done it before. But also apparently there were a lot of technical issues. Multiple times where they would get out there and then the weather would be bad and they'd have to turn around, stuff like that, which is okay. Yeah, that's what happens when you are on one of these sort of expedition type things. But also apparently this guy Stockton Rush really cut a lot of corners. So I'm seeing a lot of news about how just sort of cheap this submarine actually was, just made out of like discount parts and stuff like that. So normally I guess what it is, like, I mean, the thing is I'm totally a submarine expert, so you can trust everything I say 100%. Right. And this is all stuff that I knew before this story broke and I looked it up. Totally not lying at all. But apparently when you make a submarine like this, you want to make it out of something like, steel or iron or something, right? Because the pressure will make it basically condense. Well, they made their submarine out of carbon fiber, which is strong. It's a strong material, but it doesn't hold up as well as, like, steel. Right? So that was one thing. And every time they would go down, it would put stresses on the hull, and they would have to basically go over the thing with a microscope and stuff to make sure everything was cool. I mean, that in and of itself should be fine if the material is rated to last that pressure. Apparently, the carbon fiber that they bought at a discount from Boeing because it was, or sorry, from Lockheed Martin. They bought it from Lockheed Martin. They got it at a discount because it was past its airplane shelf life. That's a massive red flag right there. The submarine did not have an airlock. They had to be bolted in there, so there's no escaping. This is also apparently a common design for small submersibles like this. Apparently this is just what they do because it's easier than having a hatch. I mean, I'm not a submarine expert, so, but that seems a little dangerous to me, but what do I know? I mean, I wouldn't fucking bolt myself into a fucking tin can and drop myself at the bottom of the fucking ocean. But, I'm not a billionaire adventurer, right? They didn't have a bathroom on this, and there also apparently wasn't any furniture, like there was no chairs or whatever. There really wasn't enough room to even stand up inside of it from the videos that I'm seeing. It's like everybody was just sort of kneeling down. There was no bathroom, it was just a little bottle, so take a dump before you go in. Right? Which is okay, that's kind of uncomfortable, and to say the least. The submarine was controlled with a USB Logitech game controller. That would give me a red flag. If I was like a passenger on this thing and the guy is giving the tour because I just paid $250,000 to go down to the bottom of the ocean at 12,000 feet, and the guy's showing me the sub, and the dude busts out a game controller. This is what we're going with. I'm like, yeah, I ain't going on this thing. Sorry. I want my money back. That's a red flag right there. Like there should be controls and pressure gauges and a bunch of other shit. And the inside of the sub didn't have any of that. It just had like a computer and like a digital readout or whatever. But controlled by a USB controller? I mean, yeah, I guess the whole thing with this guy, the CEO Stockton Rush, is like he was like, got to think outside the box and all that other shit. That's outside the box for sure. There is a Reddit comment that I saw, which I want to show to you guys. Now, here's the thing about this, right? A lot of sort of speculation is flying around about this stupid fucking submarine and all that, and how it's unsafe and all that. And, whenever a story like this hits the news, people just go crazy with the speculations, and you have to kind of be careful about, getting this information in there. And I mean, if you care, this really isn't a story that affects anybody except the families of the dead people that were on the sub, but still, it's not good to wildly speculate about things. So, to kind of give you an example of what I mean, this is something that I saw in a Reddit post, right? It says, submersible from Wish. Let's go ahead and open that up. And it says here, photo reveals the monitor and the doomed Titanic sub was screwed into the carbon fiber hull. Which is like, you see a picture like that, it's like, okay, well, they need to attach the monitor to something. But this is misleading. No, it wasn't screwed into the hull. There's a layer on the inside that the monitor was screwed into. So that's the thing about this. It's like, you see this whenever there's a story like this. If you remember whenever there's like an accident, if you remember the thing about the stupid fucking barge that was stuck in the Suez Canal or whatever. Like stuff like that. Whenever you get these types of stories, people just go crazy and they start examining every photo really closely, trying to find something, some new angle that they can take, that they can go and get fucking Twitter clout with or whatever, right? So just keep that stuff in mind. There's a lot of bullshit flying around about this story, all that stuff. I mean, the thing is, if the screws actually did go through the hull like that, then the sub would have collapsed the first time. They took it down to that depth. So it's like, no, this is impossible. Please don't just believe every single thing you see or hear on the internet. One thing that did happen, though, is that the CEO of this company didn't seem to have a very good track record when it came to safety. There is a interview here that I want to show you guys. Maker of the lost Titanic sub once told a reporter at some point safety is just pure waste. So this is from Business Insider, and there's some actual audio on this, I think, somewhere. He said it on a podcast. Here we go. OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, whose Titan submersible took tourists down to the seafloor wreck of the RMS Titanic, once told a reporter that at some point safety is just pure waste. He said there is a limit to safety, telling Progue, at some point safety is just pure waste. I mean, if you want to be safe, don't get out of bed, don't get in your car, don't do anything. At some point you're going to take some risk, and it really is a risk-reward question. Rush added that his Titan sub features and trips to the Titanic wreck can be done outside of what's previously been done, saying, I think I can do this just as safely while breaking the rules. Apparently he couldn't. And that's the thing about that's sort of the attitude with people like this. It's like, whoa, everything has to be safe. Like, you hear this argument when it comes to things like smoking, when it comes to things like wearing seatbelts, or even getting vaccinated for an easily preventable disease that's just happened to have killed 700,000 people in the United States over the last 2 years. You hear about this argument. This is a very famous sort of common argument that you get from libertarians and right-wing people of all types. Well, you always take risk every time you wake up, every time you go outside. Why don't you just stay inside all day if you don't want to take any risks? You could just walk down the street and a car could just randomly run you over. A satellite can fall out of the sky and hit your house and kill you. Yeah, that's true. Those things can happen. A plane can I could just be sitting here in my bedroom, minding my business, and an airplane could hit my bedroom and kill me. That could happen. A wild moose could break in through my back door and chop my head off. That could totally happen. The sun could explode, and we wouldn't know it for about 8 minutes, and then the entire Earth would just be annihilated. I mean, that could totally happen. So yeah, you never are truly safe anywhere, right? But that's different than making a submarine out of a fucking tin can with recycled materials and going 12,000 feet down into the ocean with a PlayStation 2 controller. Like, that's different than that. There's such a thing as excessive risk. Jumping out of an airplane with a parachute, when you've done it multiple times and you've tested your safety equipment and the chute's going to open and you'll survive, that's different than jumping out of an airplane holding an umbrella because you think you can break a few rules and then thinking that you're just going to float down to the ground holding an umbrella. Like, that's different. There's risk taking and then there's stupidity. And it kind of sounds like this guy was, I'm a risk taker. Sounds like he wasn't smart enough to kind of, he sort of won that Darwin Award. The shitty thing about it is that the people that went on the fucking stupid fucking submarine with him trusted him to keep them safe. I mean, when you pay somebody, for example, let's go ahead and turn this shit off. But, for example, if you are going on a trip, let's say you buy a ticket on an airplane, right? And you're going to Europe, you're going to go to France, right? You are, by buying those tickets, you are sort of trusting that airline company with your safety. Part of you buying those tickets is the idea that, hey, these guys know what they're doing, they're professionals, they're not going to crash the plane, they know what happens. If something bad happens, they know what to do, shit like that. That's part of the bargain. I mean, would you get on an airplane if you knew that it was built out of materials that were no longer rated for safety? that it was made out of excess, discount titanium or whatever. Like, would you get on that plane? If you knew that it was run with a PlayStation controller, fucking Logitech, like, PC controller with off the shelf stuff. So it's like, yeah, it's your plane. Would you get on a plane if you knew it was like made with like discount shit and like piloted by teenagers? Like, would you do that? Like, fuck no, you wouldn't do that. That's no, only an idiot would do that, right? Well, that's the thing, is that the people that got on this submarine trusted this guy to be a professional about it and to actually take their safety into an account. And he didn't do that, so I smell some lawsuits coming in here. Anyway, here's a story you didn't hear about while this was happening. Right, this happened on like Monday of this week. At the same time, off the coast of Greece, a migrant fishing trawler carrying about 750 North African migrants capsized off the coast of Greece. And only about 100 people survived. We didn't really get to hear much about that story. And this is something that a lot of people on the left in particular are bringing up as sort of a comparison as to, like, why is it that this submarine gets all of the news buzz where 5 people die, but then this boat, which had up to around 750 people on it — we don't know how many people were on this fishing boat, but up to 750 people — that boat capsizes and nobody did anything to help them at all. What's the story with this boat? So it left, apparently, Libya and was on its way to Italy, which is that's a sort of common entry point into Europe for refugees and migrants and things like that. And the story is, according to the BBC, that it was in trouble for around 8 hours off of the coast of Greece, and the Greek Coast Guard didn't do anything to help them. Now, apparently the Greek Coast Guard is saying, oh, well, we offered, and they said no. But the BBC is saying that their timeline doesn't match up to what the radar is saying. They're saying that this boat was in the same spot for 7 hours asking for help, and nobody came. So there's this big investigation going on, and people are accusing the Greek Coast Guard of ignoring this group of migrants, which is, let's face it, folks, probably what happened. They probably just saw, oh, here comes some more illegals or whatever, and they're in trouble. Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. That's most likely what happened. So there's going to be an investigation about that. But why? Why is it that 5 people die in a sub made out of discount bootleg materials and shit, and there's an international rescue effort? So 600 people are dead, and no one does anything. There's nothing. Nobody gives a shit. Why is that? It's because there were billionaires on that sub. That's why. And this is just it's shitty, but that's what our world is. Our world is run by rich people, and for rich people. And there's a story of some rich people who were in trouble, and that's going to get all the news. That's just simply how it is. And it's like, yes, it's horrible. It just illustrates how fundamentally unequal not just our society here in this country is, but in everywhere around the world. That is very much an illustration of it. Like, it doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter where. Your importance as a human being is directly tied to how much money you have. And that's just shitty. That's the way it is, and that's something that we should all work towards eliminating, I think, for the good of mankind. So, yeah, there are a lot of people in leftist circles trying to bring attention to this story and to just the migrant crisis in Europe in general. The whole reason why these people are trying to get to Europe is because lots of countries in North Africa are completely screwed up. Libya, for example, is going through continuous political crises ever since 2011, and the Arab Spring, and the death of Gaddafi, which, I mean, I ultimately think will be a good thing in the long run, but that's just my opinion, etc., etc., etc. And this is why people are pissed off at the fucking stupid boat submarine story, and I can totally understand that. What I can't get behind though, is how the reaction to this submarine thing is just the sort of cruelty I'm seeing in a lot of online spaces when they come to talking about it. I'm seeing a lot of jokes, a lot of like comics and jokes and memes about the sub collapsing, and it seems like people are laughing at it. It's like, okay, yeah, here's the first thing, right? Yes, there were rich billionaires on the boat. Yes, people don't like rich billionaires, right? Yes, there's this other story about the migrants who should have gotten just as much airtime but didn't as the rich billionaires on the submarine, right? But these people are dead, and it's just really, I think, just wrong to make fun of people who are dead. Unless they deserve it, unless they're assholes like fucking Pat Robertson or something. Yes, okay, these people were rich and they were spending their money going down to look at the Titanic instead of using it to help other people. I mean, I understand that, right? It's some shit I never would have done. I think it's fundamentally wrong that there's some people who are so rich that they can just blow 250 grand on a fucking tourist trap, which is ultimately what this shit was. It was a tourist trap. While there's other people who are so poor that they're willing to risk life and limb to traverse rough seas to get to another country with the promise of getting a job. Like, I think that's wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong with that, and I totally agree. But that doesn't mean that it's okay to make fun of the deaths of people like this. Like the 19-year-old kid who just went there just for his father, he doesn't deserve to be made fun of. He's just a kid, just a normal guy. He's 19. Had his whole life in front of him. Don't make fun of that guy, right? That's messed up. If you want to make fun of somebody, make fun of the CEO, because he's the one that caused this shit. The guy, what the fuck was his name again? Rush? What the fuck kind of last name is Rush? Stockton Rush? Kind of sounds like a superhero name, doesn't it? Stockton Rush. Yeah, I'm Rush Man. You want to make fun of somebody? You want to blame somebody for the shit that went wrong with the stupid fucking submarine? Blame that asshole. He's the reason why everybody else is dead. But don't talk shit about the other people who were on that sub. They don't deserve that. They're victims, those people. They trusted this guy Rush to actually to take their safety into account. They trusted him to actually test his equipment and not build stuff out of fucking discount bootleg parts with this fucking we can break rules, safety is waste. Like, no, they trusted his ass to not play Russian roulette with their lives. And now they all paid the fucking price for it. The submarine imploded. That's not a good way to go. From what I understand, when pressure like that increases, it heats up the air inside of the submarine. So all of the people not only were crushed to death, but they were also probably boiled alive at the same time. The only good thing about it is that it probably happened instantaneously. They were probably going down, sinking, panicking, freaking the fuck out. Everybody yelling at the CEO, like, what have you done? And then heard some cracks and shit, and then just bam, immediately dead. So that's the one good consolation, is that none of them suffered. They were probably gone before they even knew it, which I guess if you gotta die, that's the way to die, right? Just die immediately. So, still, but it's fucked up. Like, don't make fun of these people, right? Don't make fun of them. Make fun of the CEO. Make fun of his company and all that shit. But remember, 4 other human lives were snuffed out here. And those people didn't fucking deserve that. One other thing I'm seeing about the stupid fucking submarine is the assholes on the right wing are, of course, take a wild guess what I'm about to say here. They are blaming it all on wokeness. And I wish I was making that up. I wish I lived in a universe where this was not a thing, but unfortunately it is. Blaming the submarine disaster, the Titan submarine disaster, on wokeness. That the company Ocean Gate was too woke, and that somehow made the submarine collapse. Why are they saying this? Because here I have some audio, which I'll play for you guys. This is the, let's go ahead and turn on my laptop. This is from the New York Post. Titanic Tour CEO didn't hire 50-year-old white guys because they weren't inspirational. Let's listen to this audio really quick and see what the Ocean Gate CEO had to say.
When I started the business, one of the things you'll find, there are other sub-operators out there, but they typically have gentlemen who are ex-military submariners, and you'll see a whole bunch of 50-year-old white guys. I wanted our team to be younger, to be inspirational, and I'm not going to inspire a 16-year-old to go pursue marine technology.
All right. So he hired young people. So remember, he hired like basically people out of college, shit like that. I think the reason why he did that is not because he can be inspirational to them. I don't think that's true. I think he hired those people because it's cheaper. It is cheaper to hire. Let's go ahead and let's reduce the size of this a little bit. We don't really need to read that. We're just listening to it. I think he did that because you can pay a kid out of college 16 or 20 bucks an hour, whereas if you had to pay a guy who was retired from the military, ex-military submarine operator, you'd have to pay him 40 or 50 bucks an hour. That's why I think so, because you don't just hire young kids for no reason. I mean, I know all about it. I've worked at a couple of companies that would do the same thing. They would hire young kids on purpose right out of college, like to be programmers and stuff. Like they would hire like say one or two senior programmers who like actually had experience, and those guys would get paid the big bucks. And then all of the other programmers would be junior. They would be right out of college, 1 or 2 years out of college, and you could afford to pay them way less because they didn't have the experience. And they're the ones who actually did all the work. The older guys would just be sort of like, oh, they're the lead programmers, so they would just like review, code reviews and shit like that. And maybe like, do the framework. Whereas like the young kids, the kids who are just like fresh out of college making 16 bucks an hour, those were the guys that actually sat there and did all the fucking grunt work. And that's how you do it. And many, many, many companies work like that. It's just, that's the reason why. So no, he wasn't hiring fucking 21-year-old recent college graduates so that he could inspire them. He was doing it so that he can pay them fucking $35,000 a year as opposed to $90,000 a year. Right? That's the fucking reason why. Let's actually, I got a couple more things I want to show you here. So that little speech where he just basically said, I don't hire 50-year-old white guys, the right wing has taken that to mean that he was somehow woke. So I won't spend too much on this. Let's go ahead and open this this little tweet thread. This is by a guy named Joey Manariano. Okay, Manarino. I have no idea who this guy is. Could be a pundit, could just be some random fucking dude. You never know nowadays because Twitter lets anybody pretend they're important if you pay them $8, which is bullshit. Wokeness killed the people on that submarine. Let that sink in. They died because the woke CEO said he wouldn't hire 50-year-old white men who knew how to command submarines and would rather train others, and the CEO died too. That's the next level of go woke, go broke. That is the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Completely fucking stupid. Like these people have to fucking just everything has to be because there was wokeness involved. It's just so fucking embarrassing. It must have been a slow day for news content. Maybe they couldn't find any drag queen story hours or something to go bitch about or whatever. I don't understand that. But he has more to say, Jory Mariano here. This post seems to be triggering to some, but can you listen to this right here where he says he's not hiring competence, but on what will inspire people, quote unquote. I don't care what color you are. I don't want damn inexperienced people driving my submarine. And yes, you got a point there, Joey. You got a point there. He should have hired experienced people. Right. But what the fuck does that have to do with being woke? Where's the woke part? You know, was he hiring like lesbians and drag queens and like that kind of thing and like trans people instead of 50-year-old white guys? Like, no. He wasn't doing that, so where's the woke fucking part come in, right? Because this is what, you know, when they say woke, that's all that really means is, you know, something that is just not like catering to white supremacy, right? To white heteronormative white supremacy. That's what woke means when they bitch and complain about fucking being woke or whatever. So, what exactly about what the CEO said? Is it because he said white guys? So if he just would have said 50-year-old ex-army people, would that not be woke? But since he decided to use the word white, that's what makes it woke? Is that what it is? It doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, that's the thing. It's true. It's absolutely true. You're more likely to find 50-year-old retired ex-military people who are white who have worked on submarines. Like, so did the CEO lie about anything? No, it's like, why does just mentioning someone's race suddenly mean that you're woke? It doesn't make any fucking sense. One more here. This is where I kind of fucking lost it. This is what got me to decide to include this tweet in the stream today. Guys, I know this is confusing to some, but the word woke is not a substitute for the word black. Black and woke aren't related. I know plenty of woke white people, far more actually than woke black people, so I know it's catchy to yell racism and everything. But you're wrong. This kind of... Alright, so for those of you out there who don't know, the term woke was started... It started basically as a term for someone who was alert to racial bigotry and discrimination. That's where the term woke came from. The first recorded use of the term woke is actually from the 1940s. In that context specifically, about someone who was aware of the prejudice and bigotry and discrimination when it came to African Americans in the United States. So literally the word woke is connected directly to black people in the United States. So first off, it shows that, like, yeah, these guys, they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about, right? They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. It's been redefined nowadays to just basically, like, when they say woke, they mean gay people, they mean lesbians, they mean trans people specifically, drag queens, shit like that. That's what they say when they mean woke, social justice warriors, that kind of thing. Actually, if you really see, I mean, even in this context, it's because the guy said 50-year-old white men. Like, if he wouldn't have said white, then these morons wouldn't be complaining that it was woke. So it's like, no, even he still knows that, yeah, it's racist. But it's funny how the chuds are just sort of like, oh, I'm not racist. I don't just like it when you hire people who aren't white. Like, that's what it is. It's fucking bullshit. Right. Here is Charlie Kirk, and I don't want to subject you guys to too much of Charlie Kirk, but this was too funny, and I thought we should see his reaction. Charlie Kirk suggests the CEO of OceanGate killed himself and his customers with wokeness. This is only a few minutes long, so let's listen to what some of Charlie Kirk has to say.
But this is an interesting piece of tape. The CEO of OceanGate, who I believe is in the submarine, they say that he hired younger, more inspirational people over experienced 50-year-old white guys. Other sub-operators typically have experienced ex-military 50-year-old white guys. I wanted our team to be younger, to be inspirational, because I'm not going to inspire a 16-year-old technology.
Because he wanted to pay them less. Let's remember that. That's the real reason why he said that. Let's continue.
So one could make the argument that the CEO was promoting diversity and or irrelevant characteristics over merit. So this ties into a theme that we've been talking about.
Yeah, one could make that argument if one was a fucking idiot. One could make that argument. It really doesn't take more than 2.5 nanoseconds of thinking about it to realize that that argument is fucking stupid as hell.
That we care more about merit than race.
No, you don't.
Makes you wonder. Play cut 50.
No, you don't. That's the other thing. All right, and then he just goes on to play the dude's fucking like actual words that we already saw and all that stuff, so we can just fucking get rid of this shit, right? Something to remember there. No, they don't care about merit more than race. They do not. They do not care more about merit than race. Because the guy, I mean, if you listen to what he said, once again, it didn't really have much to do with race. He mentioned the race of the people, yes. Maybe that was what's confusing everybody about this sentence here. But it's not like the guy said, I'm only going to hire, like, black people, or I'm only going to hire Latinos, or I'm only going to hire, Asians. He didn't say anything like that. He said he wanted to hire young people. That's the difference, right? He wanted to hire young people. He wanted to get people he could inspire. He wanted to get people he could pay less, is what it really was. So, and it really got me here. This one really got me, right? Because, yeah, okay, people like Charlie Kirk and the other assorted assholes like DC Drano and all these other fucking morons, their job is to drum up controversy. Their job is to make it so that they piss people off, so that pissed off people will tune in and listen to their stupid fucking bullshit. That's their job, okay? That's what they're there for. I should not be surprised that they're going to find the worst possible angle when it comes to a disaster like this, right? But this is pushing it really fucking hard. I mean, it just really got me how it's like even they can take something as tragic as this, where people died, and blame it on wokeness. What are they really trying to blame it on? I mean, if you really think about it, like if you're objecting to someone hiring people other than 50-year-old white men, to a white supremacist, only white people are civilized. We owe Western civilization to the white people. How many times have you heard that shit? How many memes have you seen on the internet of fucking morons on Twitter doing stuff like comparing, like, say, oh, we built the Western world, and then they'll show some artwork from, like, the Renaissance, and then they'll compare it to some tribal artwork or something, and be like, see the difference here? They'll compare architecture from, like, say, like, tribal architecture in Africa, and then compare that to, like, the fucking Parthenon or something. Right? And be like, see the difference? Only white. And what are they trying to say? They're trying to say that only white people are competent. Only white people are intelligent. Only white people know how to build stuff. That's what they're trying to say. And it's fucking bullshit. It's bullshit every which way you look at it. Even when it comes to inventions and things in the modern world, everything from our fucking alphabet to, like, computers to, like, the internal combustion engine, no one person of one race sat down and made all of this shit. It's the accumulation of scientific discoveries over centuries. Centuries and centuries and centuries, right? So, no, I mean, our alphabet, for fuck's sake, was not created by white people. Our numbers, mathematics. We use the Arabic numeral system, for crying out loud. Right? White people didn't invent the wheel. They didn't invent fire. Did you know fire predates humanity. Like, before there were human beings, the predecessors to human beings created fire, created clothing, created all that shit. So it's like, no, white people didn't, it wasn't just someone who was white sat down and invented all of this stuff. And without white people, if white people never evolved or whatever, we'd still be in huts or whatever. That's bullshit. That's complete and total fucking bullshit. And that's the worldview of somebody like Charlie Kirk. That's why he lost his fucking shit over this tweet because, another white man said something wrong. So anyway, this whole fucking thing makes my head hurt. I'm just tired of talking about it. I'm just like, okay, it sucks. Yeah, whatever. These people are dead. That's horrible. But you know something, guys? Don't go down into a fucking submarine made out of, like, bootleg shit. And then you'll be okay. I guess that's really the lesson, the takeaway for this thing. Hello, folks. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.